Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another comic book Hollywood video segment right here on Otaku Assemble. Weekly, as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's comic book Hollywood video segment. And this week, I will be taking a look at Daredevil. Now, I want to go ahead and let this be known right here and now, god damn it. Alright, I like Daredevil. I like this film. I liked it since I first saw it, and I like it to this day, and I still do not believe. You go online, you'll see this on like the top 10 worst comic book adaptations ever made. That's bullshit. It is not that bad. It is not that bad. However, despite my bias, I will try and be as objective as I possibly can in this review, okay? Just because I like the film does not mean it is without its faults, because it has a lot of them. It has a lot of flaws, okay? I'm just letting it be known now. I like the film, and I'll defend it, but I'm going to get in that ass in this review. We're going to discuss these flaws. We're going to discuss these faults. We're going to get down to it. We're going to do it. So, just so we're clear. Alright. Just had to say that. I'm tired of all the hate. But let's do this. Alright. So, brief description of the film. Daredevil is a 2003 American superhero film written and directed by Mark Steven Johnson. Based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, the film stars Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock, a blind lawyer who fights for justice in the courtroom and out of the courtroom as a masked vigilante Daredevil. Jennifer Garner plays his love interest, Elektra Natchios. Colin Farrell plays the merciless assassin Bullseye. David Keith plays Jack the Devil Murdoch, a washer fighter who is Matt's father. And Michael Clark Duncan, may he rest in peace, plays Wilson Fisk, also known as the crime lord Kingpin. Okay, and a little brief history about the film, which I won't go into too much detail about. However, I will mention this paragraph. Reviews of the film were generally mixed or average. Despite this, the film still enjoyed a profitable theatrical run and became February's second biggest release. The film was successful enough to allow a spin-off film, Elektra, which I really hope I won't ever have to fucking review that film, which was released in 2005. In 2004, an R-rated director's cut of Daredevil was released, incorporating approximately 30 minutes back into the film, including an entire subplot involving a character played by Coolio. The director's cut was intended as an improvement over the theatrical version, which it is, and I will actually compare the theatrical cut to the director's cut, just so you all know that is actually the version which is on the up and up. Now, okay, so a brief plot about Daredevil. For the most part, the summary pretty much, pretty much says it all. But I'll go in a bit more detail. So, as I mentioned from that description, Daredevil follows the story of Matt Murdock, who lost his vision in a chemical accident when he was a child, and he developed the ability to he acquired super hearing, so much so that he can actually see sound waves. He can actually see what he is hearing, and that sort of gives him this sort of super hearing and sort of supervision, if you will. This very sub-supervision. And Matt decides to become a vigilante known as Daredevil. So, as the description says, in day he's a lawyer, and at night he's the Daredevil. However, he is a vigilante. He is not a superhero. Daredevil actually does kill. He does murder criminals, and he takes it upon himself to exact his own personal version of vengeance, much in the same, well, It's not vengeance, it's justice. In the same way, well, actually, that's what makes him different than the Punisher. The Punisher exacts vengeance. Daredevil exacts justice. Sorry, Dad, I'm doing a video. Dad, I'm doing a video. Hello? Yeah, I'm in the middle of a video, Dad. I'll call you back. Later. I'm so sorry for that. Anywho, but as I was saying, so think about the characters, for those of you all who are not familiar with Daredevil, think about the characters in that sort of way. A lot like the Punisher, but the difference in their ideology is that the Punisher, he seeks out more vengeance, and not so much vengeance for him, but vengeance for other people. He seeks out more vengeance, whereas Daredevil, he views it as justice. And so, well, this is Matt's pretty, daily routine until he meets Elektra Natchios, who is the daughter of a very rich hotel owner. And the conflict picks up when a conflict between Wilson Fisk, who is the Kingpin, who during the film is working under that alias. No one knows who the Kingpin is. But the conflict comes into play when Wilson Fisk pretty much has you can call it an altercation, a disagreement, but he has to get rid of Elektra's father. And he puts out a hit. That's where Bullseye comes in. Bullseye is the assassin that Fisk hires in order to take out Elektra's father. And that altercation, actually, Daredevil trying to prevent it, leaves Elektra to believe that Daredevil is the one responsible for her father's murder. That's how Elektra comes into the fold. That's how Bullseye comes into the fold, and that's where Daredevil gets stuck in the middle. So throughout the film, Daredevil is trying to, number one, first off, Matt is trying to solve a murder. This is the subplot that is hinted to in the theatrical version, but is completely, well, it's hinted to in the theatrical version, but it is in its entirety placed within the director's cut, and it makes a lot more sense. Matt's trying to solve a murder, which leads him on the trail to the Kingpin, which, when the Kingpin hires Bullseye to take out Elektra's father, Matt is on that trail, picks up on it, goes in as Daredevil, gets pretty much mistaken for Elektra's father's killer. Elektra comes in, seeks revenge against him, puts him at a head with Bullseye. And yeah, and then the whole thing just kind of comes tumbling down towards the end. So that's as brief a summary as I could possibly get without pretty much spoiling everything, which I will try to prevent in this review. I'll alert you all to spoilers as it goes along. Anywho, so with that being said, let's talk about the writing. Because here's the thing. I like the writing of the film. But, as I mentioned earlier, the director's cut is much better written, much better paced. It makes a lot more sense because, as I said, the subplot, and I won't go into too much detail about the subplot, but like I mentioned earlier, the subplot pretty much involves the case of the murder. It's actually, correction, I think it's a murder and a rape case. And part of it is in the theatrical cut, but the rest of it is in the director's cut. It's in there. And the thing is, that case, like I said, that is the case that puts Matt on the Kingpin trail, right? Well, in the theatrical cut, they use bits and pieces of it that's how they introduce the Kingpin. Like, you hear about the Kingpin first before you actually see him. So that's how they introduce him in the theatrical cut. The thing is, though, what the theatrical cut is lacking with the director's cut, number one, continuity errors. There are a lot of continuity errors in the film, which, when you look at the two versions, you'll see them. They don't make a lot of fucking sense. So that's number one. But also number two, the director's cut actually makes it a mystery there is actually a mystery of the murder, a mystery of the rape, and who the kingpin is. And to say that the director's cut has 30 extra minutes, it's actually a pretty well-paced mystery before you figure it out. Now, of course, comic book readers, we all know who the kingpin is, and anyone who's seen the 1990s Spider-Man animated series, you know who the kingpin is. But for the casual moviegoer who isn't, aware of all this, the theatrical version lacks a nice little mystery that I think should have been in the fucking film. I really do. And so that's pretty much what, the theatrical cut up against the director's cut, that's what they offer. That subplot fixes continuity errors, it fixed the pacing, the writing is a lot, the writing makes a lot more sense. And it also fixes a few issues with Matt's character arc throughout the film, and pretty much the question of his ideology, the question of his job, hell, even the notion that he might actually quit being Daredevil is in the director's cut, and it's very loosely pieced in the theatrical cut. But in the director's cut, that whole thing makes a lot more sense. So, with that being said, for those of you all who have yet to see the film, I highly recommend you pick up the director's cut, especially since the film is 9 years old now. It's almost been it's almost been a decade since the film was released, and I'm pretty sure you can find the director's cut bargain bin price. So for those of you all who haven't seen the film, I do recommend seeing the director's cut, because as I said at the very beginning of this review, it is still a good film. It is. Especially since back in 2003, when Marvel was, cranking out their fucking films, prior to Spider-Man 3, this was still one of the better comic book films. It was. And I still think it is. This idea that it's amongst the worst, that's bullshit. It really is. Now, my final thoughts on the writing, I will say this, one thing that I do wish, and of course, remember, keep in mind the time of this film. Keep that in mind in context. 2003. This was before Sin City. This was before Frank Miller actually started, taking writing duties and director duties on some of his creations. I really wish they would have gotten Frank Miller as one of the writers on the film. I really do. Because the film adapts Frank Miller's run on Daredevil, which is one of my favorite runs on Daredevil. The film adapts Frank Miller's work. And so I'm very interested to see how Frank would have handled this. Pretty much my question is this. I want to know what changes Frank would have made. What are some of the things that Frank would have put in? And shit, I have no doubt, just like how the director's film is rated R, I have no doubt if Frank would have done it, definitely would have been a rated R film, which probably should have been best for that story. So that's when I'm gonna close out my writing portion of this review. That's one of the biggest things that I wish I could have been done with this film. I can't help but think what Frank would have done with the writing. I'm not talking about with the directing. I'm talking about with the writing portion, how Frank would have adapted his own story. So let's talk about the acting now. Okay. I do not think that the acting was that bad in this film. Look, hang on a minute before y'all want to crucify me. Hold on. I do not think that Ben Affleck made a bad Matt Murdock. Could he have made a better Daredevil? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't, as Matt Murdock, I don't think Ben Affleck did a bad job. I think he did a pretty good job with that, honestly. And as far as Jennifer Gardner as Elektra, For that film, I thought she did a good job. Look, hey, I know. What, Larry, you fucking crazy? Jennifer Garner's the worst thing that could have ever happened to that franchise. I can't believe you would say something like that. Blasphemer. You're going to hell, man. You're going to hell. Dude, calm the fuck down, okay? Jennifer Garner did not do that bad of a job. And I would even make the argument that even in Elektra, she didn't do that bad of a job. It's the way that character was written, well, shit, the way that film was written that made her performance in Elektra so bad. But I don't think it was necessarily her fault. I think it has more to do with the way the character was written. Jennifer Garner did not do that bad of a job, okay? All right. How about this? I won't say her performance was necessarily good, but it definitely wasn't bad, okay? Decent. Let's put it like that. It was decent. All right, let's talk about my favorites. Number one, Jon Favreau in Daredevil. Fucking loved him. Hilarious. Every time he's on camera, it was fucking hilarious. Okay. Colin Farrell as Bullseye. I'm sorry. Maybe this is my maybe this is my bias. I fucking loved Colin Farrell as Bullseye. I did. I loved it. I thought it was fucking hilarious. I thought it was a great sort of dark comedic caricature of Bullseye. I loved it. And of course, my favorite character in the film, Michael Clark Duncan as the motherfucking Kingpin, as Wilson fucking Fisk. He did that shit. And look, I'm gonna bury the hatchet with you guys. I'm gonna be complete. Look, this is real talk, real shit. Y'all ready? This real talk right here. The reason why I love Daredevil so much, why it's one of my favorite comic book films, is because I won't spoil it, but I'll put it to you like this. There is a fight at the end of this film that I did not think was going to happen. I thought they were setting it up for the sequel, but they gave it to me at the end of this film, and I loved every fucking second of it. I loved it. It was great. Yes, thank you. Okay, there it is. That's my biggest reason for why I love Daredevil, because that fight, did not think it was going to be in the film. I thought, okay, yeah, they're setting up for the sequel, cool. And then they were like, nope, it's happening at the end of this movie. And I was like, fucking right. So that's why I love the film so much. Yeah, all right. I probably gave it away just now, but fuck it. Okay, so let's talk about cinematography. Let's talk about choreography. Now, my one complaint about the cinematography, I think is good. I like I like the dark palette, the dark colors they used, the filters and whatnot. I like that. But I do want to address the choreography. My one complaint about the choreography in this film is how close at times it is, especially in the Daredevil Bullseye fight, how close that choreography is to the choreography in Spider-Man. And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not by mistake, because I think the choreographer for Spider-Man is the same choreographer for Daredevil, and that's why those scenes are like that. Oh shit, I forgot about the kissing scene in the rain, just like in Spider-Man. Okay, so those things, those little things, that's one of my complaints about the film, and I think that's one of the film's faults. Is that because, and here's my reasoning for this. When you look at those, you can't help but think that they did that intentionally to piggyback off of the success of Spider-Man. So, yeah, that those are points against the film. Let's talk about hey, don't cut me off, all right? I'm almost done. Let's talk about the music. I love the soundtrack for this film. Absolutely love the soundtrack. Some of my favorite songs are on the fucking soundtrack. I mean, what? You talk about Evanescence's Bring Me to Life, which was the theme song for the film, which was my introduction to Evanescence. Love that. My Immortal during the funeral scene. Love that shit. Learn the Hard Way by Nickelback. I fucking love that song during that fight scene when that shit's playing in the background. I was like, oh yes. But nah, my favorite song from the soundtrack, and I want to make sure I get the band right. cause I fucking loved it. Let me see. Hang on a minute. Where's that motherfucking soundtrack? All right, Daredevil the album. I want to make sure I got the right band. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about that song. Yeah, The Man Without Fear by Drowning Pool and Rock. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good song too. Damn, how did I forget about that? Huh. Anyway, but no, I'm talking about Caught in the Rain by Revis. Love that. That's my favorite song on the soundtrack, and I love when that song. Every time I watch that film, I stay through the credits because I love when that fucking song comes on, man. That's my jam, man. Okay, so is there anything else I missed? No, I think we got everything. So all in all, okay, so now the big question. Where would I rate Daredevil? And like I said, you know, this is where I got to be objective despite my bias towards the film, despite the fact that I like it. Out of 5 stars, I would give Daredevil, let me put it like this. I would give the theatrical cut a 3 out of 5 stars. So that's a C, right? And I would give the director's cut a 3.75 out of 5 stars. That's a B minus. So that's what I would do. The theatrical cut gets a C. It gets a 3 out of 5 stars. The director's cut gets a 3.75 out of 5 stars. That's a B minus. That's why I rate it. So like I said, it does have its faults. It does have its flaws. The director's cut is a much better film. But at the end of the day, I still think, especially when you take in consideration the time of the film, which was released in 2003, it is one of the better films of that time, of the early 2000s. It's one of the better comic book adaptations, and I would still say it's still a pretty good film. Cool? All right. So with that being said, I'm wrapping up this comic book Hollywood review. In the comments below, leave your suggestions for next week's review and thumb up the one you want to see. With that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I'm signing off, and until next time, peace.